While the man was urinating, he casually glanced around. To his surprise, he noticed a golden-colored rock and fell into deep thought. Could it be that he had discovered gold? Tom looked up at his companion Wade, who was standing not far away. He didn't want to tell Wade, but the car belonged to Wade, and there was no way he could take the gold on his own. After some hesitation, Tom ultimately decided to tell his companion, to verify whether it was real. Wade decided to test it with a lighter. When they saw that the rock didn't turn black at all, they finally confirmed they had truly discovered gold. The two of them didn't dare waste a single moment. They quickly grabbed some tools and began digging. They were terrified someone else might pass by and see it, but they never expected the gold to be so massive. They kept digging for hours without stopping, yet they still couldn't see the full size of the gold. So, they tried to lift the gold out of the ground, but even after using all their strength, they couldn't move it. Then Wade came up with another idea. He suggested tying a rope around the gold and using the car to pull it out, but the rope snapped under the strain. The chunk of gold didn't move an inch. With no other choice, they had to start digging again. The two of them kept digging for several more hours straight, but they still hadn't reached the bottom. They began to realize this might not just be a chunk of gold. It could actually be an entire gold mine. As the sky began to darken, Wade decided they should take a short break. That night, the thought of becoming billionaires overwhelmed them. They couldn't contain their excitement. A gold mine this massive enough to last a lifetime. But the question remained, how on earth were they going to dig it all out? After thinking it over for a moment, Wade came up with a suggestion. One of them should go into town to find an excavator. The other would stay behind to guard the gold. Wade believed Tom lacked the skills to survive in the wild. He thought it would be safer if he stayed behind to watch the gold. After all, there were wild dogs in the area, aggressive and dangerous. He was convinced Tom wouldn't be able to handle it. But with so much money on the line, Tom no longer trusted his partner. He insisted on staying behind to guard the gold himself. Wade tried to explain his reasoning, but Tom wouldn't even give him the chance. Tom was adamant he was going to stay. Seeing how determined Tom was, Wade eventually agreed, because deep down, he knew Tom didn't know the area well enough, and there was no way he could take the gold on his own. Wade would need at least 3 days to return, so he left Tom enough food and water to last for 3 days. Before leaving, he reminded Tom again and again, he must not let anyone else discover this place. He promised to return as soon as possible with an excavator. He also handed Tom a satellite phone before driving away, but little did Tom know it was all part of Wade's plan. Worried that someone might find the gold, Tom buried it again. Then he set up a shaded tent next to a dead tree. After that, he started tuning the satellite phone. Tom also gathered a large pile of firewood. He was preparing for the night ahead. Only a blazing fire could keep the wild dogs away. When night fell, Tom opened a can of food, but to conserve supplies, he only took a single bite. Suddenly, the howls of wolves echoed from all around. Early the next morning, Tom was woken by the scorching sun. As soon as he opened his eyes, he looked toward the gold. At night, he had to defend himself from starving wolves. During the day, he had to endure the blistering heat. In such a brutal environment, the gold was his only source of hope. Tom soon started collecting more firewood, but the nearby branches were almost all gone. He had no choice but to search farther away. Before leaving, Tom covered the gold with stones. Only then could he leave without worry to gather more branches. But as he looked up into the distance, he was stunned to see the wreckage of a plane right in front of him. It was a perfect spot for a camp. It offered shade from the sun during the day, and protection from hungry wolves at night. The only problem was, if he stayed there, the hill would block his view of the gold. So Tom began dismantling the wreckage of the plane. The intense physical effort left him extremely thirsty. He also used up a large amount of water. Determined to keep the gold in sight, Tom dragged the plane parts back. Eventually, he managed to build himself a new shelter. Now, he could keep an eye on the gold at all times. Exhausted and severely dehydrated, he passed out. When Tom finally woke up, his forehead was badly sunburned and covered in painful blisters. Tom gritted his teeth and crawled out of the tent. He sat on the ground, looking at the gold beside him. Then, he picked up a rock and slammed it down with all his strength, finally breaking off a piece. The moment he held the chunk of gold in his arms, all his pain seemed to disappear. With that piece of gold, Tom started thinking about leaving on his own. Just then, he received a call from Wade. Wade told him to hang in there, to guard the gold, and that he would return soon. After some persuasion, Tom decided to stay. But the problem was, Tom's skin was already severely sunburned. and the little food and water he had left were almost gone. At that moment, he spotted a snake not far away. He grabbed his knife and lunged at it, but not only did he miss the snake, he also knocked over the last of his remaining water. Tom returned to the plane wreckage. Suddenly, he saw a figure walking toward him. He quickly hid and concealed the gold, but the woman still spotted Tom. She wanted to help him, but Tom remained cautious, never letting his guard down. He refused the food she offered. This left Tom only able to watch as the woman ate and drank. Tom was on the brink of starvation and dehydration. The woman noticed that Tom seemed to be hiding something. She followed him closely, no matter how hard he tried to shake her off. Faced with her persistent questioning, Tom completely broke down. It wasn't until they reached the camp, getting closer to the gold, that Tom finally cracked. After regaining his composure, Tom took the woman's water and food. After a hearty meal, he dragged the woman into a pit and buried her body, but it didn't take long. The wild dogs, drawn by the scent of blood, dug up the body. However, these wild hunting dogs couldn't be driven away. They just sat at a distance, waiting for the right moment. With no other choice, Tom dragged the body out again. Before nightfall, he hurriedly gathered branches and burned the woman's body to prevent attracting the wild dogs once more. The next day, Tom finally received a call from Wade. He cried, asking his partner how much longer it would be before he returned, but Wade said the truck broke down halfway and told him to wait a few more days. By now, Tom's mental defenses had crumbled. He even started to hallucinate. He saw a truck in the distance. He wanted to shout for help, but he was afraid the gold would be stolen. In the end, his greed kept him from calling out. Tom continued his usual routine of collecting branches, but when he looked up, he noticed a sandstorm in the distance. Tom hurried back to camp, but the fragile tent was immediately swept away. Tom wanted to escape, but he didn't forget to grab the gold. However, the violent sandstorm left him with nowhere to run. When he woke up, he found branches sticking out of his body. Despite his severe injuries, he hadn't forgotten the gold. He crawled over to it and lay down beside it, feeling at peace. Soon after, Tom pulled the wooden sticks out of his body and wrapped the wounds as best as he could. But in the end, the injuries were too severe, and he passed out. When he woke up, he started to experience hallucinations. He felt as though the woman he had killed was wandering around him. Just then, Wade called. When Wade found out that someone else had been there, he immediately flew into a rage. He started yelling at Tom, completely disregarding his well-being. Suddenly, a woman appeared in front of him. It turned out that the two women were twins. The woman was looking for her sister. Upon hearing this, Tom started to panic. He immediately shouted at her to leave, but the woman kept asking about Tom's wounds. Out of kindness, she wanted to take him to a shelter for treatment. Seeing Tom's rude attitude, the woman turned and left. After watching her walk away, Tom finally relaxed. But when Tom woke up from his unconscious state again, he found that, for some unknown reason, several campfires had been lit around him. Seeing Tom injured, the wild dogs could no longer hold back. They were preparing to launch an attack. Tom quickly called Wade for help. To his surprise, Wade was not far away, on a hillside. It turned out that Wade had already brought the excavator back, but instead of rushing to help, he found an open area with a clear view, watching everything unfold below. No matter how much Tom pleaded for help over the phone, Wade remained unmoved. In fact, after Tom discovered the gold, Wade had already been thinking about how to get rid of him. In the end, Tom was dragged away by the wild dogs, becoming their dinner. Wade watched Tom's tragic death with a blank expression on his face, but just as he took out his tools to start digging for the gold,